The Alabama Crimson Tide dominating UL Monroe last week 73-0, starting to put their disappointing loss to Florida State in the rearview mirror. And yesterday, the Tide had another chance to show improvement, taking on a team from the Big Ten. It was the fourth all-time meeting between the University of Alabama and the University of Wisconsin. The first time that Alabama has welcomed Wisconsin to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Crimson Tide turned the ball over on down the first drive, but Bray Hubbard gets the ball right back, and his offensive lineman teammates, he picks off Wisconsin quarterback Daniel O'Neal. With the ball back in possession, it's Ty Simpson hooking up with Ryan Williams. That connection continues to look fresh right here. That's part of a 24-yard game. Alabama on an 11-play drive, capped off by a Gio Bernard, a 2-yard rushing touchdown. Alabama goes up 7-0 after the extra point at the end of the first quarter. Now the Crimson Tide forced Wisconsin to punt on the ensuing drive, and now it's time to build the lead. Check out this, the play action pass. It's Simpson, fires to Bernard, and he's going to leave his man in the dust en route to a 43-yard touchdown. 4 catches for 62 yards on the day for Jeremy Bernard, and all of a sudden it's a 14-point game. Second remain in the second quarter, and another red zone trip for Alabama, and Ty Simpson makes a perfect throw to Isaiah Horton in the end zone. Alabama led 21-0 after one half of action. Let's get you the broadcast angle to see the development of what many are calling the play of the day. The Tide dip into their bag of trips on the third quarter. There's a reverse flea flicker throwback screen. Check out the offensive tackle, Caden Proctor, eviscerating the poor Badger defender, and Ryan Williams will go 75 yards for a touchdown. Alabama now up 28-0. Wisconsin would house a kickoff to the board, but the moment of the day probably came here. Check out Ryan Williams getting the grab and put it in the silky smooth juke move, and then he just takes it to the house. Alabama led 35-7 at that point. Crimson Tide moved to 2-1 on the season with a 38-14 win over Wisconsin. Nick Kuzma in Tuscaloosa yesterday for the victory and has a recap.
It's a cliche in sports that oftentimes you just want to flush bad performances, but it's clear that this Alabama Crimson Tide team not opting to do that, instead holding on to their Week 1 failure down in Tallahassee as the Crimson Tide take down the next power conference opponent on their schedule, beating Wisconsin 38-14.
We've been intentional, and when I say that, there's everything we do has purpose, and so moving with purpose and just how we operate within the building, and the guys have an energy right now that's becoming contagious. They see and are reaping the rewards of it. They see what we're capable of. They know we're still so far from being where we need to be. But we've taken a couple steps here the last 2 weeks.
We've now seen back-to-back great games out of starting quarterback Ty Simpson. Fresh off a perfect 17 for 17 performance against ULM, the junior follows up with 382 yards through the air and 4 passing touchdowns, both new career highs. Simpson quick to spread the praise around after the game.
I just thought that the guys made really good plays today. Honestly, I thought the line blocked well. I can't take a sack there. Backed up. I thought the guys ran hard. The running backs, tight ends, did both, and then wideouts. They made great catches and ran really, really fast.
And what more can be said about Simpson's top target, Ryan Williams, the star wide receiver, out with a concussion last week, but he put on a show this week. 2 touchdowns and 165 yards on 5 catches. He gives an interesting answer on what being out with an injury was like.
I learned a lot, just being able to observe the defense and not be in the heat of the moment, and, being able to watch the film before my guys come out the field and tell them, like, hey, make sure you look out for this. And, just being able to be that extra, soft voice.
And perhaps no one on defense was more maligned after the Week 1 loss than defensive back Bray Hubbard. His effort was called into question on a viral clip. He said back on Tuesday that motivated him like fuel to a fire, and he was phenomenal versus the Badgers, recording 2 interceptions and 5 tackles.
That game, I guess you could say, put our backs against the wall and not starting fast. Coach DeBoer always talks about we got to start fast. And if you don't start fast, you're going to put your back on the wall, but we got to keep fighting at the end of the day, and that's what we're doing. We're keep fighting, keep swinging. They always say keep swinging, so that's what we're doing is just keep swinging.
Next up for Alabama, a bye week, but in 2 weeks, we'll see what this team really has. A road trip to Athens awaits September 27th versus the Bulldogs. From outside Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, I'm Nick Kuzma, Fox 54 Sports.
All right, thank you so much, Nick. How about the Auburn Tigers back at home taking on South Alabama at Jordan-Hare Stadium, wearing all white for the first time in years? Jackson Arnold, check him out here, showing off the arm strip going deep to Cam Coleman, and he makes the spectacular grab despite defensive pass interference. 32-yard scoring play, Tigers on top 7-0. Later on, it'll be Jackson Arnold doing it with his legs as he scrambles to the right and gets in from 6 yards out. It's now 14-3, Tigers on top of the Jaguars. Moving over to the second quarter, it's Jackson Arnold just yet again showing off that rushing attack, and he cuts it back and scores on the short TD run this time. 21-3, Auburn Tigers out in front. Now that Auburn rushing attack, it was golden. Jeremiah Cobb taking it up the gut, untouched, 2-yard score right there. 28-9 was the score at that point. Tigers have 10 rushing TDs on the year. Auburn improves to 3-0 by defeating South Alabama 31-15. Hugh Freeze still thinks his team has more to give.
Well, give credit again to South Alabama, but we certainly we've got to fit the run better. But they do have some, they had some things that you worried about, and they're going to score some points this year for sure, and really good running back and good quarterback. So, but there's no question we could play better than we did today, and I don't think anyone can argue that. And that the standard is that we should do that each time out, and not sure that anyone would say that was the standard to which we have to play to win games next week and the following weeks.